What is the future of Brent Burns? Brent Burns, defenseman for the Carolina Hurricanes. He is an unrestricted free agent this offseason, and for much of the season, it seemed like an agreed-upon fact by most fans that he and Dmitry Orlov, the elder statesman on the blue line, back on the in the defense for the Canes, that were both on expiring contracts, were going to be moved on from. And that was going to open up some cap space to do some things. Since the season ended, there has been people on both sides of this argument that seem to be taking it very personally. And I'm not saying he is one of them, but I've seen our very own Adam Gold, who is very in-depth in the coverage of the Canes, hosts the Adam Gold Show before this one every weekday right here on 99.9 The Fan. He's been on the Twitter conversations about it. I'm talking more about the reactions to what he's been saying. Rod Brent, actually, let me take a step back. Let's agree on a few things. Two things can be true at the same time, okay? As long as they aren't in complete opposite of each other. Two things can be true even more so, 100 million things can be true at the same time. So I'm just gonna name some things that I believe are true. Okay. Brent Burns wasn't as bad as some made it out to be this year. Brent Burns is a very good penalty killer. Very, very good penalty killer. Brent Burns is a great guy by all accounts. Everyone that seems to interact with him likes him. He's very good for the culture in the locker room. He's very good for passing along wisdom of being a professional to younger players. Another thing that's true, and it's obvious if you listen to anything he says, Rod Brind'amour has the ultimate respect for Brent Burns.
Almost like a little bit of a sweet spot, sort of.
All of it can be true. And do you know what else can also be true? I think it's time to move on. By saying I think it's time to move on, I'm not saying any of those other things are untrue. I'm not saying that he's not good at certain aspects. I'm not saying that this season wasn't as bad as everybody's making it out to be. I'm not saying that he's not a good penalty killer. I'm saying I think it's time to move on. And all of that can be true. It's not saying anything about him personally. I've just always been of the belief, unless you always have to make the exceptions for the statue guys, the ones that are going to have statues outside the arena, the ones that are going to go into the Hall of Fame. Those guys are different. And Brent Burns is, I believe, a Hall of Famer, but he's not a Canes Hall of Famer. Hasn't been here long enough, right? San Jose is probably going to claim him. Minnesota before that. For everyone other than the statue guys, the ones that'll have their number retired, it is always better to be 1 year early moving on from them than 1 year late moving on from them. And he is 40. I get and I completely understand that athletes are playing better later. I get and I completely understand that even at the age he was this past year, he was an exceptional penalty killer for one of the best penalty kills in the entire league. And he might be that for another year. I'm not saying it's impossible that he's not still an effective player this upcoming year. He might be good enough to be a second or third line defensive pairing guy on a contender. I get it. But there's also a possibility that in your 40s you slow down.
And look, even during his exit interviews, he even said, and it almost felt like he knew about the situation, and he mentioned how he loves it here and he hopes that something can work out. Even if something were to work out, best case scenario is he probably takes a pay cut and he moves down to maybe the third line or fourth line. And at that point, it's like, is it even really worth it?
Even if he's willing to do that, I think it's time, or let's call a spade a spade a spade. It's not bad to shuffle some of the older guys to make room for new leaders. It's not bad. Sometimes it's necessary. Right? I always use college sports as the example just because it's like a professional locker room lifespan or life cycle, and it's boiled down because of eligibility to 4 or 5 years. There's a lot of times where maybe your best leader is a sophomore. Or maybe there's a sophomore that's ready to lead, but they don't because these seniors exist and they've been around longer and they've been through more fights and more battles and they're more bruised and they're more callous, so they just take it. And then once they leave, you recognize that this underclassman he needs the space to thrive. I kind of like the thought of Slavin being the elder statesman on the blue line. And I don't expect that to happen with Burns there. Or even from a team-wide, right? The stories and everything. Like, there are reasons to move on from a player that have nothing to do with insulting the player, is what I'm getting at. I think we learned this not this year, because there actually was a lot of change coming into this year for the Carolina Hurricanes. Last year, okay, the year where they were eliminated in the second round by the Rangers. That year, because they brought back darn near everybody. There were 2 new faces on their opening day roster. It was Dmitry Orlov and it was Michael Bunting, and Bunting didn't even make it the length of the season. And I and many thought, oh, that's stability, right? That everything, oh, it's so good. I think you learned that season because there were times where it felt kind of, stale's the wrong word, but you just needed fresh blood. Maybe it's time for a little bit of fresh blood on the blue line. And you're not moving on from Slavin, obviously. You're not moving on from Chatfield, obviously. You're not moving on from Walker. He's locked up on a contract. I don't believe you're moving on from Ghost because of what he does to your power play. And I mean, if you put Nikishin in there, you're running back the same thing. Burns, where are you fitting in? 100 million things can be true at the same time. I like Burns. Matter of fact, and I didn't get emotional or anything, but there was a moment walking out of Game 5 at the Lenovo Center, right? And it was such a hard-fought game, and you're walking away, and if you spend as much time thinking about a team as we do in this business, where you're like, all right, we got 3 hours today, we need to talk about the Canes in this way and that way, and we need to talk about this player and that player, like you do form a connection. And right on the way to my car, there's one of those like on the street light flags, whatever they're called, posters, banners might be a better term, of Brent Burns, beard and everything. And I was walking to my car and I looked up and I saw it. And it was, middle of the night, whatever it was. And I literally thought, like, that's a bummer. That might be the last time that thing's ever up there. And he's somebody that's meant so much, and he's done so well, and he's been a huge part of what the Canes do best, and all of that. Like, you can like the player. You can send him away with, I hope he has a great last year or 2 or 3 of his career wherever he goes, while acknowledging you don't think it's right for the Canes. I've done it with, like, my favorite athletes throughout history. And I'll use UNC's football coach, right? My dad's a New England guy, Patriots fan. Bill Belichick ran the show up there forever. The good guys for the Patriots never finished their careers with the Patriots during the dynasty. There was always Richard Seymour on the Raiders. There was always, Ty Law moving on. They were always cut, moved on from, released, traded, whatever, a year or 2 before the fall off. You kind of flirted with it with Brent Burns. You took him into his 40s. I'm getting off the ride now, and I'm like wholeheartedly, authentically saying, I hope you have a great year. And I hope the 25-year-old we replace you with has a great year here, and that continues our window for the next 6 or 7.
And look, I know the ultimate goal for any organization, especially in the NHL, is to hold the Stanley Cup. But for Brent Burns, especially at his age, if there's ever a time maybe to go out, maybe it's this year. I mean, I know it's not really going to be reflective in his stat line with 1 goal and 4 assists for 5 points this postseason, but he was very noticeable, especially in that Eastern Conference Finals. It felt like when nobody else was wanting to shoot the puck, Burns was. All right, so if there's ever time to go out, it's after your second appearance in the Eastern Conference Final with a franchise that I don't know if revived your career is the right word, but definitely got you back to a ability of play that maybe he was unsure that he'd be able to reach again.
Now here's the part that I have a hard time talking about, because I think it's overblown. But you brought it up, I brought it up. It's brought up a billion times on social media. The perceived sweet spot that Rod Brind'amour has for Brent Burns. And I saw Adam say this on Twitter, Adam Gold, and I agree with him. Rod Brind'amour is competitor first. There's no way I think he's like playing his friends over somebody that he thinks is better for the team because they're buddies. But I do think there is, and every coach has them, there's a trust that it's like a well-worn hoodie. It's your baseball mitt that you've had for 10 years. It's just comfortable. And you don't go there when things are going well, right? You go to your teddy bear, your blanket when things are going bad, and you just need that comfort. So let's say, right, player starts playing poorly, or the penalty kill that he's not on, or whatever it is, like whatever situation, Brent Burns not there. That's not what they designed the roster to do because they're changing his role. It's just so tempting to go, no, put Brent in there when he's available. I reference this movie too much, but Moneyball, where you got to sometimes you have to take that option away, where they had the first baseman that the GM didn't want the manager playing, and the manager kept playing him and kept putting him in the lineup. So what'd they do? They traded the first baseman away. So now it's out of your hands. You don't have the option. We took away your safety net. You're on the high wire axe. You have one ability, right? Walk all the way across to the other side. The way I look at it is he served his purpose. I'm not happy about saying any of this. But this is where GMs have to be cold-blooded. You're not friends with these players. You're not. They're for someone in the organization, and it's never going to be the coach. For someone in the organization, players have to be names on a screen or names on a sheet of paper. And you have to, or even better, the little magnets that they put on depth charts on whiteboards. You know what I'm talking about? So you have everyone's name up there, and you can move them and go, what do you think about that? Right? During a trade, you're going to take this guy out, put these two on there. How do you? Where's our strength of the roster now? They need to be that. You need to move them that quickly. Can't be thinking like, well, he did so much to build our foundation, and I think he deserves. No, there's no deserves. Unless they're a statue guy. If there's somebody that's going to have a statue outside, and I mean, maybe not literally, if there's somebody that means that much to your organization that they're going to be retired, jerseys involved, and honorary front office positions for the rest of their lives, if that exists, different story. But due to the fact that he just hasn't been here enough, if Brent Burns had played 35 years in the NHL that he's had with the Carolina Hurricanes, he retires on his own terms.
Been a part of that roster in 2019 that got them back to the postseason.
It's just not there. And I don't know if anyone is there yet. But they can easily get there.